Good afternoon, and welcome to the Indigenous Youth Media Workshop screening. I'm McKinney Bozo.
And I'm Arabella Nicolai. Thanks for tuning in. This week, we worked with NAZ Today and Northern Arizona University to put together a series of stories.
Stories that tell both local and Indigenous perspectives. Across the country, we've seen more and more missing, murdered Indigenous people. So much, they're starting a movement.
Also known as MMIP. Shaddai Salarti joins us with more on this impactful topic.
That's right, and this topic hits closer to home than you think. Seeing a surge of missing and murdered relatives. According to Sergeant Rintilla of the Flagstaff Police Department, the first step in a missing persons case is to work with all involved parties.
We would then enter them into what's called NCIC. That's a national crime database that's ran by the FBI. By putting them in there as a missing person, what that allows is if any officer or federal agent or anybody has contact with the missing person and runs them in NCIC for warrants and wants and any of that information, they would come back with a hit saying, hey, this is a missing person.
Despite efforts made by local law enforcement, the number of Indigenous people going missing is only growing. We spoke with Janita Bonali, board member to the National Institute of Law and Justice, whose efforts involve advocating for MMIP cases.
You know, when we see these statistics, we know that we are at a greater risk of becoming one of those statistics. These are mothers and daughters and aunties. These are sisters. These are our grandparents who go missing. And then where are the resources? Why are there so many jurisdictional holes that victims fall through?
In 2023, there were over 10,000 cases involving Indigenous people nationwide. Among the 50 states, Minnesota ranking number 1 for highest rates of missing and murdered Indigenous people, followed by Montana, New Mexico, Alaska, Washington, Arizona, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Utah.
There is an unfairness in the legal system, in the eyes of the media even. We look at what happened with Gabby Petito, and when she went missing, it was like the nation stopped.
Only 42% of missing Indigenous people receive media coverage, while missing Caucasian and white people receive 76%.
When we look at Emily Pike, we see that people have, our own Indigenous communities have really had to push hard on social media to get any awareness, and I haven't seen it as national news. It's terrifying that we live as brown-skinned people with a prejudice against us, that, well, we know that if we go missing, then who's gonna search for us? Because at any time, it could be any one of us.
It's easy to point fingers, but are we to blame?
We've become so colonialized that we look only at our arm's length. We've forgotten to look out for each other. We've forgotten to look at the children. We've forgotten to look for our community members, for our relatives who are having problems, because somehow in this colonial world, it's become not my problem. But when does that stop? When does it become your problem?
Sometimes, all it takes is a phone call.
If you have the inclination that there is something wrong or somebody is missing or something's amiss, it should be reported sooner than later. And then to make sure that those agencies on the different reservations are taking it serious, entering them into NCIC, and starting to reach out to the other agencies that may have a nexus of where that person may be.
There's so many ways to advocate for our missing and murdered brothers and sisters. And according to Janita, it's all about remembering our responsibility to each other.
Over the past week, we've worked to learn the different forms of media available. And as this next group shows us how artists play a key role in telling Indigenous stories.
This earth is full of wonder, a wonder that cannot always be explained. But how do we experience this world? How do we express living in it? For generations, the arts have been the tool that we have used to interpret all of nature's beauty and grace. For the Indigenous peoples who have lived on this land for centuries, art has always been a valuable and spiritual tool of expression. That fact, even though hundreds of years have passed, is just as true today as it was back then. Art in all of its forms is extremely important to Indigenous peoples not just as a form of expression, but as a way of keeping their culture alive and thriving. Dancer Jordan B. Mokhta, who works at Native American Community Action in Flagstaff, believes that expressing oneself through art is also what keeps the community alive and healthy.
Teaching the young ones was really helpful during the pandemic because we didn't have any of our ceremonies or any events going on. We were able to kind of get together as a group, parents and young children. That was really great to see the young ones be introduced to their culture and heritage.
For many people, the pandemic sparked a wave of creativity, but also an overwhelming feeling of isolation and stunned motivation. Through art, Jordan taught these kids about not only their culture, but also how to continue on in life in a productive way.
For them, it kind of lets them find their purpose, and we want to go ahead and make sure that they're being empowered. We are able to provide them a nice environment to grow healthy and strong.
Learning and participating in one's culture not only helps to keep these people healthy, but it also gives Indigenous voices an outlet to express themselves in a way that is meaningful to them.
It really amplifies Indigenous voices because you are able to express yourself as an individual with whatever medium that is, whether that's through dance, arts, carving, silversmithing, beading.
This expression also gives Indigenous voices the chance to be heard when speaking about issues that face the community. Julie Komnick, who is the Executive Director of Creative Flagstaff and Coconina Center for the Arts, believes that art can be whatever the artist wants it to be, including a form of protest.
As an artist myself, I value art's role in a social and political sphere. As an organization, we support art as a form of self-expression, and if that falls into politics, we are not in the business of censorship. We encourage artists to speak their voices.
But art is not just something that is done by an individual. For Indigenous people, art is a crucial part of community and culture identity.
Bringing the community together, those parents and youth, again, finding their purpose. We can't do that without one another. Not one person can do things by themselves. It really does take your clan to help you do things. It takes a village to raise our kids. We want them to make something of their lives, and see them successful.
Regardless of the message that an artist is trying to send, whether it's through traditional techniques or contemporary ideas, there is no denying that art, in all of its forms, is a deeply respected and important thing in Indigenous culture. It doesn't just let people express themselves, it also brings people together in ways that they may not expect, or that have been passed down through the ages by relatives, tribes, and traditions that are comforting signs of home.
Being able to have these kids grow up in something productive and not having something negative to kind of focus on or quell on or anything. Be seen and being heard, even if it's just through that piece of artwork. This is who we got, this is who we have here, and it's really important to recognize that and make sure that we're interacting with one another with respect and with kinship.
Whether it's used to understand the earth we live upon or used to send a message to the world at large, the arts have always been a voice of Indigenous peoples. Through traditions and contemporary works, the thoughts, stories, and cultures of Indigenous people have shown everyone that we are still here, and we will never stop being who we are.
Hey man, my stomach be hurting, not gonna lie.
Maybe if you didn't eat junk food every day.
I could give you an example, okay man? Give me those chips right there. These are 65% less fat. It's healthier,
It's really not. If they're not healthy, try this.
Oh.
eat healthier.
Zinger edition.
Oh, yeah, man. Apple growth.
Being an activist can be a lifelong venture.
But with the guidance of those before us, it could be a powerful tool. Gracie Beth takes us along the journey of Indigenous activism.
I would say feel something, do something with that feeling. It's about following that feeling, that part of your humanity. It's what engages all of us when it comes to resisting, because that's our existence.
The original caretakers of Mother Earth have been resilient in action since colonization first arrived on this land. Even today, many are continuing to bring attention to Native issues affecting federally recognized tribes, including land disputes, activism, and treaties.
If I could just be at home and just be who I am as an Oglala woman, as a Cheyenne woman, and just live my life here on my own land in my own community, I would do that. But corporations come knocking at the door. They want to tear up my land. They want to pollute our water. They want to contaminate the air.
I come from an area on Navajo that has extractive mining happening. And so my family was relocated from our original place of living.
Unable to ignore the destruction of their ancestral homelands, Crystal and Daryl support their communities by getting their voices out there and utilizing resistance tactics that they learned from others.
I've done this my whole life, but I've never looked at it like as activism. To me, it was just, this is what we do, and this is how we show up.
Merging both the past and present, the wisdom of our elders guides us forward while the strength of youth prolongs these sacred traditions.
For me, it goes back to a lot of traditional teachings. So the way that I was taught was like our elders weren't talking all the time. And when they did decide to talk, it was because they meant what they were saying.
Crystal Tubals is an activist working on the campaign for the Land Back movement. Her understanding of the power of language sparked the term Land Back.
The very first thing that we did was we normalized and popularized the usage of the framing land back. When we would say land back, especially in non-native spaces, it would evoke fear. And the first question would be like, all of the land? What we started to do was have a broader conversation and build out a political framework around what it means when we say land back, which was the equivalent of sovereignty.
Crystal and the Marks family have similar styles and traditional teachings, and also the belief that action and language are the driving force to these movements. But the silence that comes with listening brings the wisdom that guides.
We don't necessarily need people to always be speaking and talking. That's not a leader. My brother over here would probably say the understanding of protecting people is not just so that I can stand up and say, I'm standing for you, uncle and auntie. I'm standing up for you, my nephews and nieces. It's also showing that I care and showing up in ways that takes care of them. That's leadership. Learn, feel, get mad, feel sad, cry. It's beautiful. And that's what makes us strong.
Substance abuse is a common and growing problem. Among Indigenous people, it not only affects the users, but also those around them. Thankfully, there is hope. Here's Alexis Arlee with more.
Substance abuse is a major problem in Indigenous communities, often linked to generational and historical trauma as well as abuse and poor living conditions. We talked with Dwayne Begay to learn more.
A long time ago, white people, he said they got us drunk and then they took our land from us. He goes, we were too impaired to know what was going on with our land. I think a lot of it has to do with the way we get raised in our childhood. One of the big factors on the reservation is abuse. A lot of people self-medicate with substance use. And I believe that these young teenagers that don't have any kind of resources, and when that childhood trauma comes along, we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to talk about it. Natives are very spiritual people.
When a person abuses a substance, such as alcohol or drugs, it often impacts a person's mental health and well-being, as well as alter their physical appearance and or physical health.
The first physical symptom, their hygiene, is they don't take good care of themselves. And we have to really think about how their demeanor is, and we have to make sure and ask.
Dwayne and Naka also do their best to make people feel comfortable about getting help for substance abuse issues and to realize that getting help is not weakness.
You have to know the culture. And even just giving somebody a prayer, well, they're going to give them some confidence.
Even though substance abuse is not slowing down, people like Dwayne and Naka help to create more communal and safe spaces in order to help those struggling with substance abuse issues and aim most of their outreach towards young and middle-aged adults.
So you can go on our website and you can find out some of these resources. Try to work with Native Americans is our major population that we try to reach out with. There were a lot of 25 to about 50 age group, somewhere around there.
In the end, the more we can come together and be there for each other and show love for our fellow being, the more we can help fight vices like substance abuse.
I think empathy goes a long ways. I think that's real important to be able to change somebody's thought about treatment. There's a lot of passionate people here. They're real passionate about helping someone. I've seen meth addicts that turn around and change their lives around. And I think the more consistency we have, the better it is in the outcome for them to change their thought, I think is very crucial. You know, I always tell people, if I can get away from drinking, I'm pretty sure you can.
For the Indigenous Youth Media Workshop, I'm Alexis Arley.
Wow, that's good. You know, they call me the most generous guy at the lunch table. You know, you ask anyone on the playground, they say, Eric, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. He shares with everyone at his lunch table. You know, just like this, we're all sitting around. We have an equal amount. All of us. You know what? I'll be even more generous. Here, everyone can have a little bit more. You know, don't get greedy. You know, I can't give you everything. But a good amount goes straight back to you because I'm so generous. You know, I'm able to do it, so I...
So did you hear the ghost stories last night?
Bro, yeah, they were crazy. And I screamed them right after?
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
Bro.
Hey, you guys trying to get lunch? Nah, I'm good on that.
No. Nah, bro, I'm okay, but just remember to wear sunscreen. It's pretty hot out.
Nah, man, it's not even that hot. I'll be good.
Even if you don't think it's hot outside, you can still burn, which can lead to an increased chance of malignant melanoma. This is why you wear sunscreen, or you will end up like this bum. Wear sunscreen.
Gearing up for another beautiful trip down in the Grand Canyon is Rise.
That's right, and here with more is Cheyenne Corral.
The Regional Intertribal Intergenerational Stewardship Expedition, or RISE, an all-native educational tour through the beautiful Grand Canyon. It's a classroom like no other.
It was shifting. It was just a complete different change of scenery, of lifestyle.
We knew we wanted to get Indigenous youth down on the river. We wanted to get them within the canyon walls and really set it up so that they were connecting with their ancestral homelands.
It was amazing. I got to learn a lot about myself, a lot about my culture and our traditions.
I wanted to apply for RISE mainly because I was interested in river rafting and being on the river.
RISE, Regional Intertribal Intergenerational Stewardship Expedition.
There was an elder that came with us from Navajo, and he was able to teach us all the stories and all that stuff. Like ties back to like our creation stories. From the normal everyday life of everything's going all around you, it's going so fast, but down there it's real slow.
Being in the environment feels different than being anywhere else. In the canyon, there's no connection to like what's outside. It was very easy for me to make friends and to find other people who acted like my family, so it was very relaxing, really get into what we were learning about in the river.
There was talk about there's a Grand Canyon Escalade tramway down there, and it was this 400-foot like tram that was like, it was going to be placed near the confluence where the the little Colorado River met the big river. It was around there, and even with all the mining, there was a lot of contaminated aquifers down there. Those natural springs, it was like real fresh water.
One of my favorite things about the canyon is the importance of the confluence and having them take the time to envision what it would have looked like if there was a tram that came down to in the Colorado River, because shocking thing for them to be able to imagine what big corporate entities could look like in the canyon.
Really, I just took away the resiliency. Everything that's been done down there to destroy the land, and the amount of strength we have to push back.
And they're looking for ways to stay involved with conservation and with ways to get out on the river and with ways to connect with the land. And so I think it does have long-term effects, but we're always looking for more folks to join our work in the Rising Leaders program.
If you are a Native youth and you're interested in meeting other Native youth, sharing your stories or learning from knowledge holders who have stories that you want to learn or be more closely connected, or if you just want to go on a free river trip down the Grand Canyon, I'd recommend just following the Grand Canyon Trust and keeping up with RISE.
Thank you for watching, and be sure to keep a lookout this fall for RISE applications on Instagram or at GrandCanyonTrust.org.
Up next, we have 2 examples of what it takes to start a business.
That's right. Some business owners cook, some go crazy behind the lens, and some, they're showing what Flagstaff has to offer.
We're diving into the bold and brilliant world of entrepreneurship, hearing firsthand what it takes to turn an idea into a thriving business.
My name is Karen Nez. My clans are Twitich Itni, born for Kia'ani. Tatnazanis are my Chays. Twitich Itnis are my Nellies. My title is food vending entrepreneur. The burritos I make are in a homemade tortilla, which is the dry bread. I am originally from the Navajo Nation to the city.
The sizzle begins. Crap open a can with the mischievous grin. Spam in the skillet, golden and proud.
4th Street is where I sell. I don't sell anywhere else.
Spamming potatoes, humble and grand, feeding the hearts of this hungry land. Salty and starchy, a match made just right. We're dining in comfort every single night. Dice up the taters, toss them in fat, fry them till they're crispy, and now that's where it's at.
It's my own food vending, small business.
Spam on the side, diced in a pan. I don't take the fortune to feed a whole clan. Spam and potatoes, cheap but divine. Tastes like a paycheck right before overtime. Simple and soulful, no need for a plan. Just give me a fork and a hot.
Rising Up Photographer talks about his self-established business here in Flagstaff that creates stories using photography.
My name is Tyree Minigoats. I'm a freelance photographer. I'm from Flagstaff, Arizona.
Click, flash, shoot my shots. Cutting through the dark with the light I got. Freeze your soul in a JPEG drop. 100 frames deep, but the grind don't stop.
On the artistic side of things, it means a lot to me.
From the block to the top, street life, wildlife, every scene I crop. Through the lens I see what others forgot. I ain't just taking pics, man, I'm taking the shot.
If you're starting a business, I think you need to like what you're doing. I think you need to be really good at what you're doing.
No filter needed, I'm raw with the grain. Color grade the truth, let it bleed through the frame.
My goals have changed from becoming rich and famous to just having a stable life.
Catch me in the city where the neon lights buzz. Bokeh in the back like a cinematic fuzz.
Photography helps me the way I think, how I see things when I walk around.
Business begins with a bold first step, whether you're just starting out or scaling up. We hope the story fuels your own entrepreneurship journey.
Thank you for watching our program. We would like to thank our productions, mentors, instructors, and sponsors for standing on business. Be sure to follow the gram, like and subscribe to the Indigenous Youth Media Workshop, and I'd like to thank y'all twins.